Hey, what's up, everybody? Come on, let's stand, let's worship. We're going to invite the Lord into this space, into our hearts and minds.
The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds us. You're the reason we came to encounter your love. Your love surrounds us. Surrounded by your love, Jesus. Need your
Come on, sing this out. Spirit of God.
Spirit of God, fall fresh on us. We need your presence. Your kingdom come, your will be done here as in heaven. Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. A miracle can happen now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here.
If you know Jesus, you're walking into this room with the Spirit of God living in you. And that's a promise that when we come together, he pours himself into us as we pour our worship out. We are here for him, no other reason. And so whatever you have going on in your life, lay it at the feet of Jesus. I promise you won't regret it. You sing this with Michaela. Sing, I'm caught.
Caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. And Jesus, you don't owe me anything, but more than anything that you can do, I just want you. And I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song and take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry. Forgot that you're enough, and take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. Oh, I'm caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings, no. And Jesus, you don't owe me anything, but more than anything that you can do, I just want you. Come on, lift your voice. I just want you and nothing
Nothing else will do.
Oh, I just want you and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you
Come on, sing it tonight.
and
Nothing
nothing
else
else,
matters, God. Nothing else but you. Have your will, have your way in our hearts.
nothing else will
God, it all
do.
belongs to you.
Oh, I just want
And so all you, Lord. And nothing else. Oh, and nothing else.
Nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. And nothing else. And nothing else. Nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. And nothing else. And nothing else. Nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. And nothing else. And nothing else, Jesus. Nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. And nothing else. And nothing else, Jesus. Nothing else will do. I'm caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. And Jesus, you don't owe me anything, but more than anything that you can do, I just want you.
So, Lord, here we stand, a room full of your people, and we confess with our hearts and our minds that you are Lord. Now all we want is for you to have your way in our lives. That to worship you is to live for you. So we invite you into these moments together. And God, we don't just hope or ask, but we boldly expect that you will move and change us, that you will turn us into something that looks more like you. And for those of us that have a hard time where we're holding on to something, Lord, would you lead us to a place of surrender and knowledge that we're not asking anything that you can't give us. You've already done the work. Would you help us live in light of what you have done on the cross? Draw us in close. We love you, Lord. Amen and amen. Thanks for singing with us. Come on, let's give God some praise, huh? He's good. He's good. Amen. Hey, go ahead, take a seat. We got to lighten the mood here. We got announcements. I hope you got a good joke, because...
Well, I don't know about a good joke, but we're going to have some announcements, which are cool. So, Chad, you killed it. Good stuff. All right, yeah. So, sorry, that was awkward. There was your good joke right there. So, we got some announcements for you this week. So, if you guys don't mind, go ahead and pull your phone out. And if you don't have the BFC app, you should get it. It's at your app store, or as some would say, the Android store. Is that a thing? Something like that. But most of you probably have the app store. So just get on there, go to the BFC app, and those of you who do have it, pull it out, and there's a little thing on here that says ministries. It's got some people working out, looking good. And so if you click on that, it'll take you to another page, and it says on here, college/late night. So if you click on that, take you to, guess what, another page. And then when you go down, it'll actually say, it's the second one. It says Late Night Connect. And so you're going to get on there, and it has like a a little page where you can fill out some information. We would love to connect with you. This church is our community. This is our group of like family and friends, and we just love you here. And so we want to get to know you better. And so if you wouldn't mind going and filling that out for us, that would be awesome. I also got informed just now that it's called the Google Store. Thank you, Emily, for that one, if you don't have the App Store. But, if you wouldn't mind filling that out, that would be awesome. Also, outside on the table out there, there's some sign-up sheets where you did your name tags, and that is sign-up sheets for, like, helping with production team, which makes all this awesome stuff possible. So if you enjoy, like, camera stuff or switching the cameras, whatever you think, like, I did it one time, and I am terrible with technology, so I promise you it's not that hard. So if you want to sign up for that, it would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you want to help like greet or just like set up and tear down, it's also greatly appreciated. So you can sign up right out there. And also, let's see, Timmy had an idea about a camping trip. Would anybody be interested in that, like later in March? Okay, so we got some people. Well, Timmy has to do it now because I told him about it. So we're going to have a camping trip probably if enough people sign up. So we got that. Also, I know we said we would have canes this week, which throwing Timmy under the bus tonight, but he didn't get it. So, but we're going to have it next week. So that's another promise I'm keeping you to, Timmy. But so as Timmy is about to come up, just a little funny thing here. Let's see. If you have, well, you all have fun. That was stupid. Sorry. So pull out your phone again, and as Timmy's coming up, show a neighbor the funniest picture, like the weirdest picture you have. Like junior high stuff, we all have one. So just pull one of those out as Timmy's coming. Let's see it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. That was fantastic. The best announcements I've ever heard. 2021, huh? What if every week I was like, 2021? You guys are like, it's May, Tim. Okay, you got your pictures. You showed it to your friends. That's good. Let's get into the Word. I'm glad that you're here. And I'm Timmy. I got word that we were maybe live streaming it tonight. So if we are, Mom, Dad, I love you. Thanks for watching. But anyway, glad that you guys are here. And I do like that idea. I'm thinking March, April camping trip. I don't know. We'll find someone that has some land, and I think it'd be fun. I felt like you guys seemed excited about that. Okay, hey, so we're going to be talking about Jesus in Mark 8, all right? So if you want to get your phones out and look at, might as well just keep your phones out while you're here, you know? Apparently we have you get on them a lot. So if you look at your phones and pull up the Bible, the YouVersion app, or if you just want to follow along on the screen or hear it from me, whatever you want. But we're going to be in Mark 8, and we're going to be talking and focusing on, why is Jesus really here? He was teaching at the temple, and some people start getting upset at him. They're kind of figuring out, like, hey, Jesus, why are you saying these things? So some people are skeptics, and some people are starting to choose to follow him. They're saying, hey, this guy might be worth it. And, of course, we obviously know a lot of religious leaders are saying, I don't think so. I think there's something else going on. So if you have the passage pulled up on your phone, John, did I say Mark? I meant John. John 8. I'm sorry. John 8. I'll give you a second. We'll get there. Is there any way, like, the house lights, can we get that? I feel like an old person, Can we get the house lights down a little bit? They're just a little hot. Okay. All right. John 8, 1 through 11. Here we go. Jesus went across to Mount Olives, but he was soon back in the temple again. Swarms of people came to him. He sat down and taught them. The religious scholars and Pharisees led in a woman who had been caught in an act of adultery. They stood her in plain sight of everyone and said, "Teacher, this woman was caught red-handed in the act of adultery. Moses in the law gives orders to stone such a person. What do you say, Jesus?" They were trying to trap him into saying something incriminating so they could bring charges against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger in the dirt. We don't know what he was writing. But they kept at him, badgering him. He straightened up and he said, "The sinless one among you go first. Throw the stone." Bending down again, he wrote some more in the dirt. Hearing that, they walked away, one after another, beginning with the oldest, dropping their stones. The woman was left alone. Jesus stood up and spoke to her, "Woman, where are they? Does no one condemn you?" "No one, Master." "And neither do I," said Jesus. "Go on your way. From now on, don't sin." All right, let me pray quick. God, thank you for tonight, an opportunity when we can get in a big room and we can stay safe, and yet we can still be with our friends and hang out. I'm thankful for the time of worship, for just a moment where we got to think about you and nothing else. And I just ask that as we go tonight and look at your word and see who you are, that you will reveal yourself to us in a major way, inspire us to a transformed life. We love you, and we thank you for your grace. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay, so I know that some of you actually might be married. There might be a couple people in here married. Some of you might be engaged. Some of you are hoping that one day that's you on either side of that, right? I will tell you this. When you get married, there's a lot you don't know about your spouse. And it's not like secrets. These aren't like things. They're just stuff you don't know to talk about before you get married, right? So, for instance, one is just going to be like bathroom etiquette. Like, you don't know if this person is going to end up leaving everything all over the counter. Be that person that, like, you ever go to your friend's house and there's just a giant crusty glob of toothpaste inside the sink. You're like, well, how hard? That looks months old. Like, why couldn't you just scrape it down, right? Like, so you don't know if the person you marry might be that person, right? And you're like, that's definitely me. I'm sorry. Or you find out that they're really clean, like overly clean and hyper, kind of neat freak, right? And there's going to be some other things, but one of those things for Emma and I is kind of a silly one, I guess. But basically, we'd been married about a year, and she comes home, and she's like, "Hey, can you get a dentist appointment scheduled for us?" And I was like, "Why? You got a toothache?" She was like, "No, it's been a year. We haven't been to the dentist." I was like, "Yeah, thank God, right? Let's stay away from that place." And she was like, "No, we need to go to the dentist." And I was like, "Every year? Why? I'm not a pirate. Like, I don't need to get my teeth checked out every year." She's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do." And I was like, "That's ridiculous. Schedule the appointment. I'll go and show you that my teeth are fine." So I come back. Our appointments were at different times. And she's like, "Hey, how was your dentist appointment?" "My teeth are perfect. They even took a picture of me and put me on the wall." And I'm like, "Fantastic." And she's like, "So what about you?" I was like, "Well, I got 12 cavities." She was like, "What? You got a cavity?" I was like, "Yeah, a little bit more than that." She was like, 2? 3? She's like, 4? I was like, 12. I have 12 cavities. She was like, "You're kidding me." I was like, "No, I absolutely see why I need to go to the dentist every year now. I'm sorry," right? But in that moment, literally, I really did have 12 cavities. We got them fixed. I'm good, okay? I had not gone for like 10 years to the dentist. And it wasn't my parents' fault. It was mine. I would just tell them that I had went, and they never really checked, right? But anyway, the whole point of that story is to tell you, as soon as I did go and realize that I had all this problem inside my mouth, and that a yearly going to the dentist isn't necessarily because you have to have something wrong. It's just regular checkups. It's making sure that, you're on the right path and you're doing the right thing with your teeth, and you don't want to end up like me in like 18 hours of dental surgery because you didn't do a good enough job flossing, right? And so I then was like, I know why now. So now it's really easy for me to go to the dentist, which isn't true. She's been badgering me to schedule another appointment. But my point is, when you know the why, it's a whole lot easier to do what you have to do. It's a whole lot easier to keep kind of drudging along, right? I think in life, there's so many things we know this way to be true. There's a guy named Simon Sinek. He writes a book called Start With Why. It's all about leadership, and he's basically just saying if you lead an organization or a church or whatever, what you want to do is make sure you know your why. So that way when life kind of comes at you and tries to throw you off course, you guys know what drives your engine. You're not going to easily flake out or give up on your hopes or what you're trying to do. You're going to feel grounded in your why. I think about exercising, working out. People who are like, I want to go to the beach at spring break. I want to look good. They maybe get to that point and look good, but then at the end, a couple weeks later, after they get back from the beach, they maybe start looking like they did before. And that's because their why, it was finite. It was shallow. It wasn't strong enough to be something that was like, I want to have a healthy life. I want my kids to know me forever and to be able to play with me. And I want to be able to bend down when I'm 70 and not hurt. Like all these different things. And that's going to give you a much stronger why to say, hey, I'll eat more salads this week. I'll do a little bit more running, whatever, right? So we have to have a strong why. So now I'm going to bring this into our faith. I think a lot of times, for instance, I know a lot of people who maybe I went to college with. We did the same thing as you. Went to a Christian college or at least came to a church and got involved in a group, and then we're in small groups and all these things. But one of the things I saw time and time again as our lives began to grow was I would call them and be like, hey, where are you guys going to church? And they'd be like, well, we're not really going. I'm like, oh, are you plugged in anywhere, volunteering, in a small group, whatever, And no, honestly, this church kind of hurt us, or we just kind of stopped going because the kids this, or whatever. So before long, it's realizing, oh, that's because maybe when you were going, your why wasn't what was driving you, or maybe you had the wrong why. And so I think that in this day and age, in 2021, we get into where a world almost seems like it's on fire throughout an entire year, right? And we get to this point and we start to ask ourselves, well, why God at all? Why Jesus? There's a lot of other things out there. There's a lot of other gurus. There's a lot of self-help books. Maybe just my job or hard work ethic or good habits. Maybe that's good enough. Why Jesus? Why God? In fact, there's a lot of skeptics out there. There's one thing I read that said religion is hope for people that live in a world torn apart by religion. And his point was, I wish religion didn't exist because it's all fake, it doesn't work, and it doesn't help us. And so we get to that point, and we have to ask ourselves, hey, in my faith, in my relationship with God, why God? Why Jesus? So just real quickly, I want to try to unpack this for you. Basic message tonight, just of hope, of why we decide to follow this man named Jesus. And I think we have to take it all the way back. We're going to just kind of lay it down to the basics, because I think there is one fundamental kind of faith step that we have to take to move forward. And that is this. That is, at the end of the day, I realize I am spinning on a massive rock in the middle of nowhere. And that there's this sun that warms us up, and every day it just comes up, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And then there's like 8 other planets, right, that are also doing the same thing. And then scientists are telling us that, hey, that's the solar system, obviously, and we believe that there's about 100 billion of those within our own galaxy. And then we believe, from what we can see, that there's 100 billion galaxies. So I don't even know that number, trillions of different possible solar systems. And so our first step of, well, why God? Why Jesus? I think is kind of answered in this idea of, well, eventually we have to make the decision. Is this an accident? Are we just here coincidentally? Or not? Is it by design? Is there a creator? Is there a reason that we're here? I have come to the place in my life where when I step outside, I remember on my hike, and I look up at the sky, and it's just literally billions of stars. I can't even separate stars because I've never seen anything like this before in my life. They're so close together. There was no light out there. There was more stars in the sky than there was darkness in the sky. And I literally was just in awe, complete wonder. And in that moment, I'm like, man, there has to be a creator. Or when I sit there, yesterday we got to go to Emma's 20-week appointment. And I'm sitting there and I'm seeing this baby on the screen. And I'm like, that is the hand of God. I couldn't do that if I tried. I did kind of do it. But I couldn't do it without God inspiring it to happen, right? And so I've come to a place in my life where I'm like, there's a creator. It was by design. But that's not like uniquely Christian. So we have to keep going, right? That's our first step of faith. And I believe that anyone who's wanting to make a decision to follow Jesus has to ultimately make that step of faith. But again, that is not exclusively Christian. So we keep going. So what is this Christian God that we believe in as creator? What was the point? Why? Well, we see in the beginning, God created the ocean. He created the ground. He separated it. He created the animals that live in the sea. He created the animals that live on the ground. He created vegetation, plants. This beautiful cycle, right? Plants that suck in carbon dioxide and push out oxygen. Even in and of itself, those things continue to push life on. God created those, and he created all that, and it was wonderful. And the Bible tells us that it was good. And then he created his ultimate creation, his fingerprint, humanity. It says that we were made in the image of God, that we were created to be like God, which even one of the things that means is we also create. I was just sitting there listening to music, and if you ever wonder, like, oh, why does music have to be so loud at church and so exciting? I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be, but if we have the ability and we have the gifts to be able to do it, well, that's one of the things. We get to bear the image of God. We can do this. God takes delight in the fact that, hey, we're giving our best. So that's okay. That's part of being made in the image of God. And so God created all this, and it was good. And the Bible tells us that even God would walk with his creation. First human beings, he just spent time with them in the garden. But then something happened. Because there was love involved in their relationship, there had to be freedom, there had to be choice. Because without it, it's not love, and you can get in trouble for it, right? So they had freedom, they had choice. Because of that, sin, wrong, and error entered the world. Now we see separation between creator and creation. Here's where the story gets wonky. A lot of times it's like, all right, so now God was super mad. And from there on out, God's wrath was getting poured out on humanity, on creation. That's why bad stuff happens. Wrong. Bad stuff happens because sin has entered the world. That's it. It stops there. That is the explanation. I know that's not always easy to take because it's like, well, sin, that sounds like such an old churchy word. But ultimately what sin means is it's like an archery term, to miss the mark. We have missed the goal in which God has created for us, intended for us. And in fact, the opposite is true. God wants to do everything in his power to help get us back on track, to get us back into relationship with him. So, what did he do? He gives the law. Maybe you're familiar with hearing about that. It was the 10 Commandments, and then it turned into like 600. Why? Because it was abused. Sin was a part of the world. Humans were given the law. We like control. We like manipulation. We did everything we could to make it our law and to be in charge of it. So what does God do? He gives us the prophets. These weren't fortune tellers or sorcerers like sometimes the History Channel makes them seem. They were just preachers, actually. Guys that were like, no, God, the law is supposed to be like this. They're supposed to help lead and guide into the law. What happens to them? They get killed. They're done. And so then you get to this place where finally God is saying, hey, sin, the law, all those things, human beings, they can't do it on their own, but I desire so much to be with my creation, I'm going to step into it. So we see Jesus, the only one who is God, and it's not this moment of where we have to climb up to him, but rather he comes down to us. And so now I'm going to dive into this story and unpack it real quick, but we have the understanding of, hey, why Jesus? Well, let's answer the question of who he is first. John tells us in the very beginning of this book that the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word. So we now know, okay, so in the beginning, when God created everything, the Word, Jesus, was with God. And then he says, I love how Eugene Peterson says it in the Message, put on flesh and bone and moved into the neighborhood. So now we see Jesus is here. He's on earth. He's living life with us. He's walking with us. He's working with us. So, okay, so if Jesus is God, how do we know how God acts? We just keep looking at Jesus. So the story is Jesus has been teaching in the temple, and he's doing his best, right, to lead, to get people back, to say, hey, here's some certain things you've heard. I want to get you back on track. And so these Pharisees come to him, and they say, Jesus, I think you'll be happy about this. We caught someone not obeying the law. Yeah, here she is in the very act. If I was there, I'd be like, ugh, you guys are freaky, man. Like, let's talk about this later. But instead, they're like, here she is, Jesus. It's totally within grounds for us to stone her, for us to kill her. What's happened? Sin has entered the world. What's the answer? Death. In fact, they're kind of like, it's not, Jesus hadn't said this yet, but at some point, they're kind of like, hey, you've even said the wages of sin are death, so this is probably the right thing to do. I love the next part. Jesus doesn't even reply to them. He ignores them. He just gets on a knee and starts writing. One of the things I love about that image is here we have these guys. They come up, stones in their hands. What's their spirit? It's accusers. They want to point out what everyone else has done wrong. That is what sin does. Let me tell you, everyone's like, hey, it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. No, it's sin. Well, it's this country, it's that country. It's sin. Yeah, sure. Does that lead to human beings doing things that are horrible and awful and are out of line, right? Absolutely. But it's all because of sin. We've missed the mark. It's not the goal that God intended for us. What's the spirit of Jesus? An advocate, a protector. He's saying, hey, I'm right here with you. I'm just as vulnerable as you. As he finally stands up, he looks at them and he just says, hey, you guys are trying so hard to fulfill the law. That's great, but here's what I want you to do. Drop the first stone. Or throw the first stone. You without sin, throw the first stone. And we see that they begin to drop their stones. Oldest to youngest. I felt like that was maybe a good point to remind all of us, including myself in the room, that we still have a lot to learn because it was the youngest ones who still wanted to get after it, right? But they eventually dropped their stones as well. And I can just see in the story that the woman, she apparently doesn't know. She's still down, head down, in her sin, in her shame. And Jesus says, woman, where have they gone? Has no one condemned you? She looks up and says, no one. And then we hear the words of grace. We see the picture of why Jesus. And it is the fact that he says, neither do I condemn you. Go. Live your life and sin no more. I'm about to wrap it up because I just wanted to kind of have a close focus on, okay, who is God? Why God? There it is. We see the picture of the Pharisees, the law. We've fallen short. We see the picture of the woman, sin and shame. We've fallen short. We can't handle it. And we see the picture of Jesus, an advocate, coming in on our behalf. It's not, hey, get in line. Get to church on Sunday night, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and make sure you're not saying this. Make sure you're not doing that. Have this outfit on and that one off. No. In the very act, like wherever she was, in the very middle of her sin, Jesus came. Do you know what's the tendency for a lot of us in the middle of our sin, in the middle of literally doing something that we feel like, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. We don't want God to be thinking about us, right? We're like, hey, I don't want to hear a worship song because I'm going to feel terrible. I don't want to be thinking about God. I don't even want my Bible sitting out on the coffee table. Why? Because we're right there and we're like, hey, I should be here. I should be getting the worst from the Pharisees. This is my fault. I've done it. And yet Jesus steps in and says, no. That's not how this works. In your very middle of your sin, I'm right there with you. That's how much I love you. This whole thing, life in and of itself, is because of me. Nothing happened that I didn't want to happen. I am right here. And I want you to feel my love and my grace. Church, it's gotten messy. Frankly, sometimes it's gotten annoying. You're just doing the same thing after. It's like that was never the intention. We were never supposed to have stones in our hands looking for, all right, who's not doing the right thing? Let's let them know. No. God is about life. He's always been about life. From the very beginning, he breathed life into man. And since the fall, God has been passionate about restoring his relationship with humanity. And I get up here sometimes and I'm like, I want to make sure I say the right thing. And I'm like, there's not much more for me to say other than literally it is just Jesus. It's that simple. Like, I wish I could make it harder. I wish I had 17 steps for you to do right now, and maybe that would transform your life by the weekend. But I'm like, no, literally, it's just saying, okay, I believe you. I just want to follow you. The last thing right here that sticks out to me is Jesus looks at her. It's not, hey, I want you to sit in that. Yeah, I got those guys out of here, but I still need you to, we got some correction to do. No, it is go. Go. Live your life. That's why I gave it to you. I want you to live it out. 2021, it is a new year. It's an opportunity for us to say, hey, God, I'm trying to feel you more in my life. I want to be more like you. I want to lean into you. We don't have to be stuck in the trauma. We don't have to be stuck in whatever pain was caused to us or around us. We don't have to be stuck in our sin or bad habits or whatever. It's just saying, hey, I want to be more like Jesus. I believe that there is a creator. I believe that it's always been Jesus. I believe it's still Jesus. And I believe that it will never stop being Jesus.
Come on, we're going to respond and worship together. Sing how great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Come on, pour it out. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Come on, sing this out. Then came the morning, come on, that sealed the. Come on, sing loud. Body began to ring. Let's declare that. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chad. Hey, thanks for being here. I hope that as you leave tonight and tomorrow and Friday and every day after that, it's more of just leaning into Jesus, less of trying to do it on your own. So let's hang out. We'll see you next week. Sunday, 11 a.m. is our second service. We'd love to see you. And yeah, that's it. You're dismissed.